Jiwoo stood outside the massive doors of her new classroom and tried to control her breathing. Her hands were shaking. She had traveled across half the galaxy to get here, leaving Earth behind for the first time in her 14 years of life. The Galactic Academy was supposed to be a place of learning and friendship, where young beings from different worlds came together. But right now it just felt terrifying. She pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room fell silent immediately. Every eye turned to look at her. Jiwoo felt her face grow hot as she walked toward an empty seat near the back. The other students pulled away from her as she passed. A small blue creature with too many arms actually squeaked in fear and hid under its desk. Jiwoo sat down and stared at her hands. She had expected this. The humans who came to the academy before her had warned her family. Other species were afraid of humans. They called Earth a death world because of how dangerous it was. They said humans were survivors of a planet that tried to kill them every day. They said humans were predators who ate meat and hunted for sport. None of that was entirely wrong, but it still hurt to be feared. The teacher walked to the front of the classroom. She was a Velkari, one of the most feared species in the galaxy. She stood 8 feet tall with sleek fur that shimmered like silver. Her eyes were golden and sharp. When she smiled, Jiwoo could see rows of teeth designed for tearing meat. The teacher's name was Instructor Velthera, and she had been teaching at the academy for 20 cycles. "Welcome to Galactic History," Instructor Velthera said. Her voice was deep and smooth. "I see we have a new student today. Jiwoo from Earth, would you like to introduce yourself?" Jiwoo stood up slowly. She felt every eye on her again. "Hello," she said quietly. "I'm Jiwoo. I'm from Earth. I'm happy to be here." The silence that followed was painful. No one said anything. No one welcomed her. A few students whispered to each other, but they did it in languages Jiwoo didn't understand. She sat back down and wished she could disappear. The door suddenly burst open. Every student in the room went completely still. Even Instructor Velthara turned to look. A young Velkari walked into the classroom. He was tall, maybe 7 feet already, with dark fur marked by silver stripes. His ears were pointed and alert. His golden eyes scanned the room with the focus of a hunter. His name was Taeyang, and everyone knew who he was. His family was one of the most powerful Velkari clans in the galaxy. His father was a war hero. His mother was a council member. Taeyang himself had already won 3 combat tournaments despite his young age. He was everything the other students feared about predator species. Taeyang walked slowly down the aisle between the desks. Students pressed themselves against the walls to get away from him. One student actually climbed onto their desk. The fear in the room was thick enough to taste. Jiwoo watched him approach and wondered where he would sit. Then Taeyang did something no one expected. He walked directly to Jiwoo's desk and sat down in the empty seat beside her. The entire classroom gasped. Taeyang set his bag on the floor and turned to look at Jiwoo. His golden eyes met her brown ones. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "You're the human," Taeyang said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Jiwoo answered. Her voice was steadier than she expected. Taeyang nodded slowly. "Good," he said. Then he turned to face the front of the classroom as if nothing unusual had happened. Jiwoo looked at Instructor Velthera. The teacher was watching them both with an expression Jiwoo couldn't read. Then Velthera smiled just a little and gave a small nod. It was barely noticeable, but Jiwoo saw it clearly. The teacher approved of what had just happened. Something shifted in the classroom. Another predator species student, a large reptilian creature with scales like armor, stood up. He walked across the room and sat down next to a small prey species student who looked like a rabbit. The rabbit student's eyes went wide with fear, but he didn't run. He just sat very still. Then a bird-like predator with sharp talons moved to sit beside a gentle herbivore who resembled a deer. One by one, the predator species in the classroom began changing their seats. They moved away from each other and sat beside the prey species students. It was like watching a wave move through the room. The prey species students looked terrified. Some of them were shaking, but none of them ran. They watched the predators sit down beside them and waited to see what would happen next. The predators sat calmly, not threatening, just present. They were following Taeyang's example. Jiwoo realized what was happening. The pack mentality, she had read about it in her studies of alien cultures. Predator species often followed the strongest among them. When the most powerful predator made a choice, the others followed. Taiyang had chosen to sit beside the human, and now every predator in the room was choosing to sit beside someone they would normally avoid. Interesting, Instructor Velthara said quietly. She looked around the classroom at the new seating arrangement. It seems we have a new dynamic today. I approve. Perhaps there is hope for the next generation after all. She began her lecture, talking about the formation of the Galactic Council and the wars that came before peace. But Jiwoo barely heard the words. She was too aware of Taiyang sitting beside her. He smelled like something wild and dangerous, like the big cats she had seen in zoos on Earth. But he wasn't threatening her. He was just sitting there, calm and patient. Why did you sit here? Jiwoo whispered when the teacher turned to write on the board. Taiyang glanced at her. You smell like a hunter, he said simply. But your eyes are kind. My people respect that combination. We respect strength that chooses gentleness. Jiwoo didn't know what to say to that. She had never thought of herself as a hunter. She was just a girl from Seoul who liked books and music. But Taeyang saw something else in her. Something that made him want to sit beside her when everyone else wanted to stay away. Thank you, she finally said. Taeyang's ears twitched, which Jiwoo would later learn was the Valkyrie version of a smile. We're packmates now, he said. That's what my people call it when we choose someone. You're part of my pack. I'll protect you and you'll protect me. That's how it works. Jiwoo felt something warm spread through her chest. For the first time since arriving at the Galactic Academy, she didn't feel alone. She had a friend, an 8-foot-tall predator friend who could probably tear a steel door off its hinges, but a friend nonetheless. The rest of the class passed in a blur. When the bell rang, the students filed out slowly. The prey species students kept glancing nervously at their new predator neighbors, but no one had been hurt, no one had been threatened. The predators had simply sat beside them, calm and peaceful. As Jiwoo gathered her things, she caught Instructor Velthara watching her again. The teacher nodded once more, this time with clear approval. Jiwoo nodded back. She didn't fully understand what had happened today, but she knew it was important. She and Taeyang had started something. The pack was forming 2 by 2, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be quite the same. The cafeteria was the largest room Jiwoo had ever seen. It stretched for what seemed like miles, with tables that could seat thousands of students from hundreds of different worlds. The ceiling was made of glass that showed the stars beyond. It should have been beautiful, but today it felt like a battlefield. Jiwoo carried her tray of food and followed Taeyang to a table near the windows. She had learned over the past 3 days that wherever Taeyang went, she was expected to follow. That was how pack worked, he explained. They stayed together. They ate together. They faced the world together. But today something was different. As they sat down, Jiwoo noticed groups of students pointing at them and whispering. The herbivore students, the prey species, were gathering in large clusters on the opposite side of the cafeteria. They kept looking over at the predator and human pairs, their faces showing clear fear and anger. They're planning something, Taeyang said quietly. He had finished his meal in the time it took Jiwoo to take 3 bites. Valkyrie ate fast, like they expected their food to run away. What do you think they'll do? Jiwoo asked. Before Taeyang could answer, a group approached their table. At the front was a Kaleth student named Mirai. She was small and delicate, with large eyes and soft features that reminded Jiwoo of a deer. Behind her stood at least 20 other prey species students, all looking nervous but determined. We need to talk to you, Mirai said. Her voice shook slightly. Both of you. Taeyang stood up slowly. He was careful to move in a way that didn't seem threatening, but his size alone was intimidating. Jiwoo stood up beside him, trying to look calm even though her heart was pounding. We're listening, Jiwoo said. Mirai took a deep breath. You need to stop what you're doing. This new seating arrangement, the predators sitting with prey species, it's not natural. It's dangerous. My people have filed a formal complaint with the Academy administration. Dangerous how? Taeyang asked. His tone was neutral, but Jiwoo could see his ears were flat against his head, which meant he was annoyed. You're predators. Another student spoke up from the group. He was a small blue creature with antennae. Both of you. Humans and Valkyrie, you're both hunters. You both eat meat. You both come from violent worlds. When you work together, when you form alliances, it threatens the rest of us. Jiwoo felt anger rise in her chest. I've never threatened anyone here. Neither has Taeyang. We're just trying to learn and make friends. That's what you say now, Mirai said. She looked genuinely scared. But predators are predators. You can't change your nature. History shows that predator species always dominate and control prey species. When predators work together, it only makes things worse. We want separate classrooms, separate dining areas, separate everything. That's segregation, a voice said from behind Jiwoo. She turned to see her older brother Hyun approaching with his own tray. He was 16 and had been at the academy for a full year already. He set his tray down and stood beside his sister. What you're describing is discrimination based on species. That's illegal under Galactic Council law. It's self-preservation, Mirai shot back. We have the right to feel safe. You are safe, Hyun said firmly. No one here has hurt you. No one has even threatened you. You're afraid of something that hasn't happened and probably never will. Another Valkyrie approached the growing crowd. His name was Daehyun, and he was Taeyang's closest friend from childhood. He was even larger than Taeyang, with scars across his muzzle from combat training. The prey species students backed away from him instinctively. Let me explain something about my people, Daehyun said. His voice was deep and rumbling. Valkyrie choose our pack carefully. When we choose someone, we defend them with our lives. Taeyang chose Jiwoo. That means she's under the protection of his entire clan. If anyone threatens her, they threaten us all. That's exactly what we're afraid of, Mirai said. Her voice rose in pitch. You're forming alliances. You're creating power structures. Soon you'll control the entire academy. Or maybe, Jiwoo said quietly, we're just making friends. The cafeteria had gone completely silent. Everyone was watching the confrontation now. Jiwoo could see students from all species watching to see what would happen next. This was bigger than just her and Taeyang. This was about the future of the academy, and maybe the future of the entire galaxy. We don't want to be your friends, another prey species student said. We want to be left alone. We want to feel safe. Why can't you understand that? Because safety built on separation is not real safety, Hyun said. It's just fear with walls around it. Eventually those walls will fall, and then what? You'll still be afraid because you never learned to live together. Easy for you to say, Mirai whispered. You're a predator. You've never been prey. Jiwoo stepped forward, moving slowly so she wouldn't startle anyone. That's not entirely true, she said. Humans are predators, yes. But we're also prey. We evolved with bigger, stronger predators hunting us. Saber-toothed cats, cave bears, wolves. We survive by being smart and working together. We know what it's like to be afraid. Then why do you side with them? Mirai pointed at Taeyang and Daehyun. Why do you sit with the hunters instead of the hunted? Because they understand us, Jiwoo said. And we understand them. Yes, we're predators. Yes, we hunt, but we also protect, we bond. We form families with species that aren't even related to us. On Earth, humans have lived with wolves and turned them into dogs. We've befriended cats and birds and horses. We don't see predator and prey. We see potential friends. That's unnatural, someone in the crowd muttered. Maybe, Taeyang said, but it's also effective. My people respect humans because they understand the predator's code. Strength should protect, not just destroy. Power should defend, not just dominate. Jiwoo understands that without being taught. It's part of who humans are. We're filing more complaints, Mirai said. She was shaking now. Whether from fear or anger, Jiwoo couldn't tell. The Academy administration has to listen to us. There are more prey species students than predators. We have the numbers. We'll force them to separate the classes. You can try, Hyun said, but I don't think it will work. The Academy was founded on the principle of unity. The whole point of this place is to learn to live together. The prey species students began to back away, returning to their side of the cafeteria. Mirai was the last to leave. She looked at Jiwoo one more time, and Jiwoo saw something in her eyes that wasn't just fear. It was sadness. Mirai wanted to understand. She wanted not to be afraid. But fear was stronger than curiosity, at least for now. As the crowd dispersed, Taeyang sat back down. That went well, he said with dry humor. They're really scared, Jiwoo said, sitting beside him. I didn't realize how much. Fear makes people stupid, Daehyun said, taking a seat at their table. They see threats that don't exist. They imagine futures that will never happen. Fear is the enemy of peace. But we can't just ignore their fear, Jiwoo said. They feel it. It's real to them, even if it's not rational. We have to find a way to show them they're wrong. How? Hyun asked. They won't listen to words. They've already decided we're dangerous. Then we show them through actions, Taeyang said. We prove that predators and prey can work together. We prove that humans and Velkari can be trusted. And how do we do that? Jiwoo asked. Taeyang's ears perked up, which meant he had an idea. We wait for an opportunity. Something always happens at this academy. Some challenge or test or emergency. When it does, we make sure we're the ones who help the prey species. We protect them. We save them if necessary. We show them what pack really means. Jiwoo nodded slowly. It made sense. Words wouldn't change minds that were already made up. But actions might. If they could demonstrate that they meant no harm, that they actually wanted to help, maybe the prey species would start to trust them. Until then, Daehyun said, we stay strong. We stay together. We don't let their fear change who we are. They finished their meal in comfortable silence. Around them, the cafeteria slowly returned to normal noise levels. But Jiwoo noticed something. More predator students were sitting with prey species now, following Taeyang's example. And while the prey species looked uncomfortable, they weren't running away. They were staying. They were trying, even if they were afraid. It was a small start, but it was a start. The pack was growing, one scared student at a time. The announcement came during morning assembly. Administrator Krell, a tall insectoid being with multiple eyes and a clicking voice, stood at the podium and addressed the entire student body. His announcement made Jiwoo's stomach drop. Due to recent tensions between student groups, Krell clicked, the Academy has decided to implement an emergency team-building exercise. All students will participate in a survival simulation in the training dome. You will be assigned to mixed species teams. Completion of the exercise is mandatory for all students. The auditorium erupted in whispers and worried voices. Jiwoo looked at Taeyang, who sat beside her as always. He looked calm, but his tail was twitching, which she had learned meant he was thinking hard. This is because of us, Jiwoo whispered. Because of the complaints. Probably, Taeyang agreed. The administration wants to force everyone to work together. It's not a bad strategy if everyone survives. That's not comforting. Taeyang's ears twitched in amusement. I'll keep you safe. That's what packmates do. The team assignments were posted that afternoon. Jiwoo found her name and felt her heart sink even further. Her team consisted of herself, Taeyang, Daehyun, and Mirai. The same Cleth girl who had confronted them in the cafeteria. The same girl who was terrified of predators. They were going to spend hours together in a dangerous simulation. This was either going to fix everything or make everything much worse. The training dome was enormous, easily the size of a small city. Inside, holographic technology and environmental controls could create any landscape or situation. Today, it had been programmed to simulate a hostile jungle planet. The air was hot and humid. Strange plants with sharp thorns grew everywhere. The sounds of unknown creatures echoed through the trees. Jiwoo's team gathered at the starting point. Mirai stood as far away from Taeyang and Daehyun as possible. Her large eyes were wide with fear and she was trembling. She looked like she wanted to run away. Listen, Taeyang said, keeping his voice gentle. I know you're afraid, but we're a team now. We need to work together to complete this exercise. Can you do that? Mirai didn't answer. She just stared at the ground. Daehyun growled softly in frustration. This is pointless. She's too scared to function. We should just complete the exercise without her. No, Jiwoo said firmly. She's part of our team. We don't leave anyone behind. Humans and their pack bonding. Daehyun muttered, but he didn't argue further. The objective appeared on their data pads. They needed to reach a beacon on the other side of the jungle and retrieve a flag. Simple enough. Except the jungle was full of simulated predators designed to stop them. The exercise would test their ability to work together under pressure. They started walking. Taeyang took the lead, using his enhanced senses to detect danger. Daehyun covered the rear, making sure nothing approached from behind. Jiwoo walked in the middle, watching their surroundings and trying to think strategically. Mirai walked beside Jiwoo but kept glancing nervously at the two Velkari. Why are you being nice to me? Mirai suddenly asked. Her voice was quiet and confused. Jiwoo looked at her in surprise. Why wouldn't I be nice to you? Because I said those things in the cafeteria. Because I filed complaints against you. Because I'm afraid of you. Being afraid doesn't make you a bad person, Jiwoo said. And I understand why you're scared. But I promise we're not going to hurt you. We're on the same team. My people have a saying. Mirai whispered. Trust a predator and you'll end up as dinner. My people have a saying too, Jiwoo replied. Fear is the mind killer. It stops you from seeing the truth. Taeyang and Daehyun are predators, yes, but they're also people with honor and codes they follow. They've chosen us as pack. That means they'll protect us even if it costs them their lives. I don't understand that kind of thinking. You don't have to understand it. You just have to trust it. A roar echoed through the jungle ahead. Taeyang held up a hand, signaling everyone to stop. Through the trees, Jiwoo could see something moving. Something big. A simulated apex predator, designed to be more dangerous than anything the students could actually face in reality. The creature stepped into view. It was massive, easily 12 feet tall, with armored scales and claws as long as swords. Its eyes glowed red and its mouth was full of teeth designed for crushing bone. It was the kind of monster that appeared in nightmares. Mirai made a small sound of terror. Then she ran. Wait, Jiwoo shouted. But Mirai was already crashing through the underbrush, running away from the predator in blind panic. The simulated beast's head snapped toward the movement. It roared again and began to chase her. Go, Daehyun shouted. I'll slow it down. Taeyang didn't hesitate. He took off running after Mirai, moving with the incredible speed of his species. Jiwoo ran after him, her human endurance allowing her to maintain a steady pace even as her lungs burned. Behind them, she heard Daehyun roaring a challenge at the artificial predator, trying to draw its attention. Mirai was fast, driven by pure terror. But she didn't know where she was going. She ran straight into a dead end, a clearing surrounded by thick, thorny vines with no way out. She turned, her back against the vines, and saw the massive predator burst into the clearing behind Jiwoo and Taeyang. Daehyun was on its back, his claws dug into its armored hide, trying to slow it down. But the creature was too strong. It shook him off and sent him flying into a tree. Daehyun hit hard and lay still, either unconscious or too stunned to move. The predator advanced toward Mirai. She was trapped. She was going to fail the simulation and probably get marked with a death on her record. She closed her eyes and waited for the end. Then Jiwoo stepped between them. She was small compared to the monster. She had no claws or teeth or natural weapons. But she stood there anyway, her arms spread wide, protecting Mirai with her own body. The predator loomed over her, and Jiwoo felt real fear for the first time since entering the simulation. This thing could kill her. Even in a simulation, the pain would be real enough. You want her? Jiwoo shouted at the creature. You go through me first. The predator roared, and Jiwoo braced herself. But before it could attack, Taeyang slammed into it from the side. His momentum knocked the creature off balance. He used his claws to slash at its eyes, blinding it temporarily. The creature roared in pain and confusion. Mirai, run! Jiwoo shouted, but Mirai didn't run. She stood there, staring at Jiwoo in shock. The human had protected her, had put herself in danger to save a prey species she barely knew. It didn't make sense. It went against everything Mirai thought she understood about predators. Taeyang was fighting the creature, using his speed and agility to avoid its powerful attacks. But he couldn't defeat it alone. It was too big, too strong. Daehyun was starting to stir, but he was too far away to help quickly. Jiwoo looked around desperately. She needed a weapon. She needed anything that could help. Her eyes fell on a dead tree branch, thick and solid. She grabbed it and ran toward the fight. Taeyang, duck! Taeyang dropped low, and Jiwoo swung the branch with all her strength. She aimed for the creature's knee joint where the armor didn't quite cover. The branch connected with a solid crack. The creature's leg buckled. It stumbled off balance. Daehyun chose that moment to rejoin the fight. He launched himself at the creature's throat, using his weight to drive it to the ground. Taeyang leaped onto its chest, pinning it down. Together, the two Velkari held the beast until it finally stopped struggling and dissolved into pixels. The simulation recognized their victory. Silence fell over the clearing. Everyone was breathing hard. Daehyun had cuts on his arms from where he'd grabbed the armored hide. Taeyang had a gash on his shoulder that was bleeding. Jiwoo's hands were shaking from adrenaline. Mirai slowly approached Jiwoo. Her large eyes were filled with tears. You protected me, she whispered. Why? Why would you do that? I've been so terrible to you. I said awful things. I tried to get you separated from your classes. Why would you risk yourself for me? Jiwoo lowered the branch and looked at Mirai directly. Because that's what humans do, she said simply. When someone is part of our group, we protect them. It doesn't matter if you were mean to us before. In that moment, you needed help. So we helped. I don't understand. You don't have to understand, Taeyang said, walking over to join them. Blood dripped from his shoulder, but he ignored it. You just have to know that it's true. You're part of the pack now. We protected you once. We'll protect you again if needed. That's the promise. Mirai looked at the three of them, the two predators who had fought a monster to save her. The human who had stepped between her and death without hesitation. Everything she thought she knew about predators was wrong. Everything she had been taught about keeping wrong. I'm sorry, Mirai said, tears rolling down her face. I'm so sorry I was afraid. I'm sorry I didn't trust you. You saved my life. It's okay, Jiwoo said gently. Fear is natural. But now you know the truth. Mirai nodded slowly. Then very carefully she stepped closer to Jiwoo. Close enough to touch. Close enough that a predator could reach her easily. It was an act of trust that cost her everything. But she did it anyway. Jiwoo reached out and took Mirai's hand. Welcome to the pack, she said. Above them, the simulation dome's speakers crackled to life. Team 7 has completed the primary objective and achieved a secondary goal. Perfect team co. The medical center was busy after the simulation exercise. Students with minor injuries filled the waiting area, getting cuts bandaged and bruises treated. Jiwoo sat beside Taeyang while a medical drone sealed the gash on his shoulder. He barely flinched as the laser closed his wound. Does it hurt? Jiwoo asked. A little, Taeyang admitted. But pain is part of being a warrior. My father says pain teaches us to be better next time. Your father sounds intense. He is. But he's also wise. He taught me that strength without purpose is just violence. You demonstrated that today, Jiwoo. You had no reason to protect Mirai, but you did it anyway. That's strength with purpose. Across the waiting area, Mirai sat with her own people. Several Kaleth students surrounded her, listening as she told them what happened in the simulation. Jiwoo could see their expressions changing from skeptical to surprised to thoughtful. Word was spreading. Later that evening, Jiwoo returned to her dormitory to find a message waiting for her. It was from Suman, another human student who was studying xenoanthropology, the study of alien cultures. Suman was 2 years older and had been at the academy longer than any other human. She wanted to meet. They gathered in one of the study rooms. Suman had brought several other students with her, including Mirai and a few other prey species who wanted to understand. Instructor Kale was also there. He was a hive mind representative, an insectoid species that thought collectively rather than individually. His presence made the meeting feel official. I've been watching what's happening at this academy with great interest, Suman began. She had a calm, confident way of speaking that reminded Jiwoo of teachers back on Earth. The bonding between humans and predator species, the fear from prey species, the confusion all around. I think it's time we talked about why humans are the way we are. I want to understand, Mirai said quietly. After today, I need to understand. Why did Jiwoo protect me? Why does her brother talk about pack bonds? Why do the Velkari respect humans when they respect almost no one else? Suman smiled. Those are exactly the right questions. Let me tell you about human evolution. She activated a holographic display that showed images of Earth through different time periods. Humans evolved on a death world. That part everyone knows. But what most species don't understand is what that really means. The display showed primitive humans running across grasslands. We were persistence hunters, Suman explained. We couldn't run as fast as prey animals. We couldn't climb as well as predators. We didn't have claws or fangs or venom, but we had something else. We had endurance. We could run for hours, for days even, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We were predators who hunted by simply not giving up. That's terrifying, one of the prey species students whispered. Maybe, Suman agreed. But here's the interesting part. While we were learning to hunt, we were also learning to cooperate. Humans couldn't survive alone. We needed each other. So we formed tribes. We made families. We created bonds that went beyond simple survival. The display changed to show humans with dogs, cats, horses, and birds. And then we did something remarkable. We started forming bonds with other species. We found wolf cubs and raised them. Over generations, those wolves became dogs. We befriended cats who hunted mice in our grain stores. We tamed horses to carry us. We trained birds. We took predators and turned them into companions. Why? Mirai asked. Why would you befriend predators? They could hurt you. Because we understood them, Jiwoo said, speaking up. We were predators too. We knew how they thought. We knew what drove them. And we also knew that a pack is stronger than an individual. A human with a dog is more dangerous than a human alone. A human with a horse can travel farther. A human with a cat can protect their food. We didn't see predators as threats. We saw them as potential allies. Instructor Kale clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. The hive has studied human behavior extensively, he said. His V multiple people speaking at once. What makes humans unique is your ability to switch between predator instincts and empathy. You can hunt with perfect focus and then immediately show kindness to an injured creature. You can be deadly in one moment and gentle in the next. This paradox confuses other species. It confuses us sometimes too, Suman said with a laugh. But it's who we are. We're predators who chose cooperation over domination. We're hunters who protect the weak. We're survivors who make friends with danger. Taeyang, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. That's why my people respect humans. We Velkari have a code. We hunt to survive, but we never hunt for cruelty. We fight to protect, not to destroy. We thought we were alone in that philosophy. Then we met humans and we found others who understood. You're like us, but you took it further. You turned enemies into family. But it's not just instinct, Suman continued. Humans also make choices. Every day we choose kindness over violence. We choose to protect instead of attack. Those choices define us more than ever could. The room was quiet as everyone processed this information. Then another prey species student raised a hand. So when Jiwoo protected Mirai today, that was a choice? Not just instinct? Both, Jiwoo said. The instinct to protect packmates is there. It's part of being human, but I also chose to do it. I could have run away. I could have let Taeyang handle it alone. But I chose to stand between Mirai and danger because it was the right thing to do. Humans bond quickly, Instructor Kale added. Once a human considers you part of their pack, their group, their family, they will defend you with extraordinary determination. They will sacrifice themselves if necessary. This is both beautiful and terrifying. It means humans make loyal allies but also dangerous enemies. We don't want enemies, Hyun said. He had joined the meeting late and stood near the back. We came to the Galactic Academy to make friends, to learn, to be part of something bigger than Earth. But we won't change who we are to make others comfortable. This is who humans are. We bond with predators. We protect the weak. We form packs. If that scares some people, well, maybe they need to examine their own fears. It does scare us, Mirai admitted. Or it did. Now I'm not sure what I feel. Today showed me that everything I thought I knew was wrong. But changing beliefs is hard. It takes time. We have time, Jiwoo said gently. No one expects you to stop being afraid overnight. But maybe you can try trusting us. Take it slow. See for yourself that we mean what we say. Suman brought up another holographic image. This one showed a human child playing with a large dog. The dog was obviously a predator, with powerful jaws and sharp teeth. But it was being gentle with the child, letting the small human climb on its back. This is what humans do, Suman said. We see a dangerous predator and we see potential friendship. We see something that could hurt us and we choose to trust. That trust is usually rewarded. My people have kept prey animals as pets, another student said. This one was a reptilian species, a predator who had been sitting with prey species students since the cafeteria confrontation. We've never thought to befriend other predators. The idea seems strange. It is strange, Taeyang agreed. But humans made it work. They showed us it's possible. Now we're trying to learn from them. The whole predator-prey divide, maybe it doesn't have to be permanent. Maybe we can all learn to live together. That's the dream, Instructor Kale said. That's why the Galactic Academy exists. To teach the next generation that old divisions can be overcome. That former enemies can become friends. Humans accelerated this process simply by being themselves. By showing what's possible when you refuse to be limited by fear. Mirai stood up slowly. She walked over to where Jiwoo was sitting. Everyone watched as she extended her hand in the human gesture of friendship. I want to learn, Mirai said. I want to understand. Will you teach me? Will you show me how to not be afraid? Jiwoo took her hand and smiled. Of course. That's what friends do. Friends, Mirai repeated, testing the word. Yes, I think I'd like that. More prey species students began approaching. One by one, they introduced themselves to the humans and predators in the room. They asked questions. They shared their own fears and hopes. The barriers were starting to come down. As the meeting ended and students filed out, Jiwoo caught Suman watching her with an approving expression. You did good today, Suman said. In the simulation and here. You showed them what humans are really about. I just did what felt right. That's exactly my point. For humans, protecting others feels right. Forming packs feels right. That's our strength. We don't have to think about it or plan it. We just do it naturally. And that naturalness is what convinces others we're genuine. Jiwoo looked around the room at all the different species talking together. Predators and prey, sitting side by side trying to understand each other. It had started with her and Taeyang, just two students sitting together in a classroom. Now it was spreading across the entire academy. Do you think it will last? Jiwoo asked. This peace we're building? Suman smiled. That depends on all of you. The young generation. You're not burdened by the old wars and old hatreds. You can create something new. Something better. As long as you keep choosing friendship over fear, yes, I think it will last. Taeyang joined them, his shoulder now fully healed. My father is coming to the academy tomorrow, he said. He heard about The news alert came at dawn. Jiwoo was still in her dormitory when her communication device began flashing red. Emergency bulletin. She opened it with shaking hands. The Galactic Council was holding an emergency session about humanity's membership. Several prey species governments had filed formal complaints, claiming that humans represented a threat to galactic peace. They cited the predator alliances forming at the Academy as evidence that humans were creating dangerous power structures. They were demanding humanity's immediate expulsion from the Galactic Council. Jiwoo felt sick. This was because of her, because she had sat with Taeyang, because they had become friends, because other predators had followed their example. Her simple act of friendship had triggered a political crisis that could affect all of humanity. She rushed to find her brother. Hyun was already in the common area, surrounded by other human students who had received the same news. Everyone looked worried. What do we do? One of the younger students asked. If Earth gets expelled, we'll have to leave the academy. We'll be isolated again. We fight back, Hyun said firmly. We show them they're wrong. We prove that humans can be trusted. How? Another student demanded. They've already made up their minds. They're too afraid to listen to reason. Then we make them see, Jiwoo said, joining the group. We show them what's really happening here. We show them the truth. Before anyone could respond, Taeyang burst into the common area. His fur was disheveled and his eyes were wild. My father's here, he said. He's come to take me home. He says it's not safe for me to stay at the academy anymore. What? Why? Because of the crisis. The Velkari Council is worried that if war breaks out between prey species and predator species, young Velkari at the academy will be targeted. My father wants all Velkari students to return home until the situation is resolved. That's exactly what the prey species governments want, Hyun said angrily. They want to separate everyone. They want to prove that predators and prey can't live together. I know, Taeyang said. He looked at Jiwoo and she saw pain in his golden eyes. But my father is clan leader. I have to obey him. I don't want to leave, but I have no choice. Jiwoo grabbed his arm. Yes, you do. You always have a choice. That's what you taught me. You chose to sit beside me. You chose to make me part of your pack. Now choose to stay and fight for what we've built here. It's not that simple. If I disobey my father, I dishonor my clan. That's against everything I was raised to believe. And if you leave now, you abandon your pack, Jiwoo said firmly. Taeyang went very still. His ears flattened against his head and his tail lashed in agitation. Jiwoo had put him in an impossible position. Both choices would dishonor him in different ways. Then Mirai appeared in the doorway. Behind her were dozens of other prey species students, including many who had been the most vocal in their fear and complaints. They all looked nervous, but they were here. We heard the news, Mirai said. About the council vote, about the complaints, about Taeyang having to leave. She took a deep breath. We came to say that we were wrong. Those complaints, those demands for separation, they don't represent all of us. Not anymore. What are you saying? Jiwoo asked. We're saying we stand with you, another prey species student said. What we saw in the simulation, what we've learned over the past week, it changed our minds. You protected us. You proved that predators and prey can work together. We won't let our governments destroy that. More students began arriving. Predator species, prey species, even some neutral species that had stayed out of the conflict until now. They filled the common area until there was barely room to move. All of them had come to support the humans and their predator friends. Daehyun pushed through the crowd. Taeyang, my friend, my packmate, you don't have to leave. None of us do. We can make a stand here, together. My father, Taeyang began, is outside the main hall with the other clan leaders. Daehyun interrupted, waiting to take us home. But we don't have to go. We can show them that the young generation sees things differently. We can show them that we've built something worth protecting. Jiwoo looked around at all the students who had gathered. An idea was forming in her mind. A crazy, probably stupid, definitely risky idea, but it might work. What if we staged a protest, she said. A peaceful demonstration. We all sit together, predators and prey, humans and aliens, just like we do in class. We show the whole galaxy that we choose unity. We broadcast it. We make it impossible to ignore. The administration would never allow it, Hyun said. Then we don't ask permission, Jiwoo replied. We just do it. Civil disobedience. It's a human tradition. When laws are unjust, you break them peacefully and accept the consequences. That could get us all expelled, someone pointed out. Maybe, Jiwoo agreed, but at least we'd be expelled for standing up for what's right. Isn't that better than being separated because people are afraid? Taeyang was quiet for a long moment. Then his ears lifted and he showed his teeth in what Jiwoo had learned was a Velkari smile. My father taught me that honor comes from protecting the pack. You're my pack, all of you. If I leave now, I abandon you. That's not honor. That's cowardice. I choose to stay. Then let's do this, Mirai said. Let's show them what we've learned. They moved quickly. Students spread out across the academy, gathering everyone they could find. The message was simple. Come to the main courtyard. Sit with someone from a different species. Show the galaxy what unity looks like. Within an hour, hundreds of students had gathered in the courtyard. They sat in pairs, predator and prey, exactly like they did in their classrooms. Humans sat with Velkari. Kaleth sat with reptilian predators. Bird-like hunters sat with small mammalian prey species. Everyone sat together, 2 by 2, silent and peaceful. The news media arrived quickly. Cameras from dozens of different worlds began broadcasting the scene across the galaxy. The headline practically wrote itself. Academy students protest segregation demands. Taeyang's father appeared at the edge of the courtyard. He was massive, even larger than Daehyun, with silver fur marked by scars from a lifetime of battles. He looked at his son sitting beside Jiwoo and his expression was unreadable. Taeyang, he called out. His voice was like thunder. Come here now. Taeyang stood slowly. Jiwoo started to stand with him, but he gently pushed her back down. Wait here, he said quietly. This is something I have to face alone. He walked across the courtyard to where his father stood. Every camera followed him. The entire galaxy was watching this moment. You defy me, his father said. It wasn't a question. I honor my pack, Taeyang replied, as you taught me to do. I taught you to obey your clan leader. You also taught me that strength should protect, not destroy. That power should defend, not dominate. That a warrior's honor is found in his choices. Taeyang gestured to the students sitting peacefully behind him. These are my choices. These are my packmates. If standing with them brings dishonor to the clan, then I will bear that dishonor gladly. Taeyang's father was silent for a long time. Then slowly he began to walk forward. He crossed the courtyard until he stood directly in front of Jiwoo. She forced herself to meet his eyes, even though every instinct told her to look away from such a powerful predator. You are the human, he said, the one my son chose as packmate. Yes, sir, Jiwoo replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Why did you protect the Kaleth in the simulation? She had been cruel to you. She had tried to separate you from your friends. You owed her nothing. I owed her everything, Jiwoo said. She was scared and alone. She needed help. That's reason enough. That is not logical. No, Jiwoo agreed. But it's human. We don't protect people because it's logical. We protect them because it's right. Taeyang's father studied her for another long moment. Then, to everyone's shock, he lowered himself to the ground. He sat down right there in the courtyard. I begin to understand, he said, why my son chose you. Why the young generation sees things differently than we do. Other adult Velkari who had come to retrieve their children watched in amazement as their clan leader sat beside a human child. Then, one by one, they began to sit as well. The protest was spreading beyond the students. Instructor Velthara appeared with other academy teachers. They too sat down, joining their students. The administrator, Krell, emerged from the main building, saw what was happening, and after a moment's hesitation, sat down as well. The broadcast was going viral across the galaxy. Billions of beings were watching as students, teachers, parents, and administrators sat together in peaceful unity. The message was clear and powerful. The young generation had chosen a different path. The Galactic Council session was still ongoing. But now the council members were watching the broadcast from the academy. They saw the prey species students sitting willingly beside predators. They saw the humans who had caused such controversy sitting peacefully with everyone else. They saw what was possible when fear was set aside. The vote came hours later. Humanity's membership in the Galactic Council was maintained by a narrow margin. The complaints were officially noted but dismissed. The council issued a statement. The young generation has shown us a better way. We would be wise to learn from them. As news of the vote reached the academy, cheers erupted in the courtyard. Students hugged each other, predato,